Welcome back to the channel, guys. The markets aren't looking so good, so I'll do my best to give you that little sprinkle of hopium across these bearish markets. Now, it's something we've been covering for 2022, and I'll leave some resources to why this is the case rather than doubling up on the explanation yet again. They'll be in the video description and at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around, do that thing that we all love to hear, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to get up to $4,100 in sign-up bonuses, check out the link to Bybit in the video description. No KYC exchange as well. Tickets to our first live event are still on sale. Link is in the video description. All right, let's crack on with today's video. The Fear and Greed Index is at 21, and viewers, you guys know on the channel, we're looking for a fear reading of 15 or less as a Bitcoin buying opportunity. Now, remember when I brought up this fear and greed plan back in May of 2021 when the market first crashed during this first run of the bull market? It seemed to work out very, very well. And of course, there was no guarantees that we would never see those lower prices. It looks like we're heading towards those at the moment, but at least this keeps us out of buying the FOMO, all of that FOMO that creeps into the market when it races back up to new highs or even recent highs like we saw recently. If you do want a copy of that and follow along with what we're doing as full-time traders in these markets and in our real estate portfolios, check out the link to Patreon. It's in the top of this video description. We update our members weekly, have tons of exclusive posts. We have a weekly group call going through all of the markets, not just cryptocurrency, because everything is interconnected. Speaking of interconnected, let's cover the news headlines. What's going on this week? How long we could expect some of this bearishness to extend for? Grayscale news push with SEC for Bitcoin spot ETF. This was the big news of 2021. We're waiting for this for Bitcoin to hopefully pump the price. I think we can comfortably say by now that news is just news. Doesn't matter what the news says, it depends on the cycle itself. Let me know in the comments down below if you have other opinions, but hopefully by now you're really starting to see that in a bull market, great news is great. In a bear market, great news doesn't really mean too much. Grayscale is pushing to persuade the SEC to approve converting the crypto investments firm's $40 billion Bitcoin trust into an exchange trade fund, basically a spot Bitcoin ETF. Still waiting on that. A few more headlines here. Scaramucci's crypto pivot comes with an eye of tripling assets. Basically, Scaramucci's fund here, Skybridge Capital, they have about 3.5 billion assets under management. Half of that's in crypto. They want to triple their assets under management. So this, of course, is bullish news, but it takes time. That's what happens. You can't just go and throw $6.5 billion into the cryptocurrency market in one hit. Of course, if you did, it might spike the prices, and their investors aren't going to be too happy about that. The big news this week we touched on yesterday is the tech earnings coming out this week. So this is affecting the markets. It affected the NASDAQ price. That NASDAQ price has now broken to a new low. The good news, that sprinkle of hopium that we were looking at in the intro, Bitcoin hasn't broken to a new low. It hasn't broken the Russia low, that Russia invading Ukraine low. That day is the 24th of February. Looking at the companies that are earning. So how do we know about this 3 weeks? Well, look at the earnings reports coming out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hundreds and hundreds per day of earning reports. Next week, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Following week, we go through again, hundreds, etc. Then we get a little further into May and they start to ease a little bit. Obviously, hundreds on that Monday, and then they just start to ease off. So we might be coming towards one of the pivotal points on these stock markets, maybe in the coming days, maybe in the coming weeks, but go back and just look at very, very recent history. 24th of February. I know I bring that date up a lot, but it's so important. If you want to learn and grow as an investor, especially in macro environments, look at these particular dates and how the market responds. The emotion on those dates. The media loves to try and wreck people. It essentially sells more papers in that way, of course, or sells more clicks on their website. The next dates to look at, which also coincide with these dates here of the earnings announcements, we've got the Fed meeting coming up on May 3rd and 4th. So the markets, of course, are responding to this. The Fed talked about raising interest rates potentially 50 basis points, and now the market's trying to price in even more than that. We know what happened last time back from the meeting or the discussions in January and February, looking to raise them in March. We only went that 0.25% instead of 0.5%. The market bounced back in anticipation of some more positive outlook on the market. Again, all of these macro environment players are starting to play on the sentiment of the market, the psyche of the investors, and it's bringing about doubt and uncertainty and all that great FUD sort of stuff. But that, to me, that's the hopium. That's what I've experienced over the last 15, 16 years of my investment journey, is that the uncertain times are the best times to be with the market, because the everyday investor doesn't understand. They want to be in the market when the going is good and everything is rosy and you're just having a joyful time in the markets. Everyone is making profits. The hard work is done now. This is like the boxing match, and you're gonna the training for it, the big event. You're getting the skills in this market. When the market takes off, that's the time to enjoy it. But the new people are scrambling to make profits in those new times because they're not here during these difficult times. They're not here doing the training and the workouts and smashing their diet and getting everything right in preparation for going to the moon. Going to the moon should be a fun ride and not a stressful ride. And then you just take profits on the way up. That's the easiest way to do it. Speaking of the cycle, so coming back to this, the last couple of days, got a video up here just looking at preparing for another crypto crash. We saw that market flip up, flip back down. So I'll go through this in the charts. Bitcoin cycle, the 4-year, this will be at the end of this video here. I popped this video up on the February the 22nd. Obviously, I've been working on it for some time, looking at the macro cycles. This is all playing into what we just looked at in the news with the Fed and the earnings and the US dollar going up. The cycle is the cycle. That's my thesis on the market, and that's how I've been investing for over the last, 15, 16 years. And the cycle really just tells you, are we excited or are we fearful? And the news just comes out and starts to play within that cycle. It doesn't matter about the news. It's important to hear what's going on. Like I said earlier about the dates, and pay attention to those dates, because for the S&P, we haven't broken past that 24th of February just yet. But the NASDAQ has just broken past that 24th of February low. So that was the major low. It's broken that support level, which came in a few times here. And so I've had this on the chart. We're looking at our double top. I'm taking a bit of a forecast, something fun, because I think this market will potentially come back and test around this 11,500 to 12,000 points on the NASDAQ. And we've been covering for some time, if the NASDAQ goes down, because Bitcoin is so heavily correlated to the NASDAQ, the tech sector, and not so much gold. It's not a store of value like gold at this point. That's the data, that's the facts. It's not my opinion. It's what the market is telling us. If it was different, then of course Bitcoin should be holding its value more so. It's starting to get there because of these lows. I'm looking towards these price levels further down. I've seen it happen a few times before. These double tops come in. If we break those lows, generally we'll probably get to at least the 125%, probably more like the 150, which is this 1.5. That's 150% of the range. So that's how I'm working these targets using my fib extensions. And that also lines up with the 50% level, which was from the COVID crash low to the current peak. That gives us about a 30% drop. More confluence here. It's about a 30% drop in the COVID crash low as well. So there's some nice numbers working here. Sure, if it goes lower, we'll keep an eye on that too. If it gets to around that 10,900 or 11,000 points, we'll also keep an eye on that as well. But at least for 2022, I think that is a possibility if the NASDAQ continues underneath these levels. Of course, there's more support levels on the way down. We have it's 12.2, etc., but it now has shown that it wants to break this. The saving grace here is if the NASDAQ can then bounce back above, give us that fake out at these lower prices, and then close back above to find some support and move away from that point, because it's hit the 100% of that double top. For Bitcoin, here is the box that it needed to get out of compared to what we saw. We're going to compare those low prices, those dates, to the NASDAQ as well, to show that little bit of strength, that maybe, this much tech for Bitcoin, this much gold for Bitcoin in terms of how people are seeing the play here. The 4-hour, the price was $40,600. I posted this on Twitter yesterday. My official Twitter and Instagram are in the link down below. Don't get scammed out there with a lot of those other scammers across these social medias. 40,600. It had a number of hours at that point. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, and then it got rejected on the 5th bar. So 4 5s, 20. About 15 to 20 hours trying to get across $40,600. Needed to get out of the box to the upside for the bulls, got out of it to the downside, and now we're at lower lows, 37,700. And to the daily, you can see we're just broken that 18th of April low, but we're still a little higher than the 24th of February low. That's an important date. And in terms of the date, you want to know that price on the asset that you're holding. Look at that, because the extreme fear was on that day. So if the market comes back to test that price, maybe the market is feeling somewhat extremely fearful as it was around that day as well. That's why I pay particular attention to those days and those prices to gauge sentiment in relation to the price. So we're back into these consolidation zones in terms of the price of Bitcoin. If I extend this out, we're back trading where we were in February and early March before we moved up to that high. And, looking for support, 36, there's a few little support levels back here now, 33, 34 and a half. These levels are 36, 37. So there are a few support levels, but it is really testing times at the moment, especially for Bitcoin, which of course flows out into altcoins as well. So if Bitcoin is weaker, that's going to make altcoins even weaker, which is what I was looking at here in this video. I'm preparing for another crypto crash. The Hopium, let's get some Hopium into all of this. The Hopium is that we haven't broken down from the January low and the February low. So maybe we just trickle down and we don't go into some massive crash, fears everyone out, and we're stuck at lower prices indefinitely. So the Hopium I've got here is that we are holding up stronger, relatively speaking, to the NASDAQ, which has now broken that February low, broke the January low a long time ago, February and the March low, which means that although we are correlated in the movements, people are finding some support at higher prices compared to those dates. That's about as much Hopium as I can throw on at this point for the short term. For the longer term, my Hopium is always getting lower prices. So provided you've been taking profits at higher up, that's what we've been talking about with our members, which is why I talk about the Patreon link in the top of the video description there. You can test the market, try and get into some small altcoin trades along this journey. But overall, this market is essentially down from the all-time high. So the challenge to get some good altcoin trades which pay off is so much more difficult in a bear market than it is in a bull market. Everything is going up in a bull market, whereas in a bear market, much harder to get, and they generally don't last anywhere near as long. On top of that, the total cryptocurrency market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, so this is total 3, all your cryptocurrencies except the two majors, has just fallen back underneath its 50% level. This is of the run up from February to that peak in April. So we basically went from one extreme market sentiment date, the most fearful date we've seen in a while, Russia invading Ukraine, to the extreme, which was the merge coming out, the talks of Ethereum merge coming sooner. Obviously, it's been delayed, and that was the extreme excitement after the altcoin season in late March, early April. So we've gone from one extreme market sentiment to the other, and we've broken past that 50% point. So essentially looking at that emotion, and I see us coming underneath that emotion, getting closer towards the fearful side. It's back underneath the resistance that we tried to climb above. You can see we just got rejected from the downtrend underneath the 50%. The lining here is, of course, we are still above those major lows. So this is the total market cap again. Why this is, sort of in doubt, a bit fearful, because, we're coming back to test those lows, and we've tested them quite a few times without any sort of solid move up. The last time we had that little move up was in mid-April. Basically, that's as much as we could handle to the upside. So if we do come back and test these and get a smaller move up, something equal to or less than this move, that is going to be your key signal as a reversal. I saw a question yesterday, someone asking, well, how do you know when this market's getting reversed? Well, you just got to go back and measure some of these moves. You're just measuring the sentiment of the market. How much do investors believe the market should rise? Well, we saw a big rise here in March to April. Then we saw a smaller rise here. So if you only see a small rise, the chances, it's not guaranteed that it will work out, but the chances of this move actually going up any further, if it's only sort of equal to that, are not very high. You want to see it go higher and then break those tops. That's going to give you the confidence that this move is going to be more sustained than this previous move, even if you get that pullback. That's what you're looking for. If this move is only up, sort of gets rejected at that 50%, people are going to be excited in the short term. No doubts about it. But it's kind of only equal to that sort of move, which means, boom, probably lower prices, which test these lows, and then probably a little further down to test the next lows. So just sort of, it's a cascading effect if you don't see extra strength in the short term. That's the hopium. The other side is the, you call it your FUD, call it whatever you want to call it, but that's just the market telling us what it wants to do. And the market is always going to be right at the end of the day. We have to be prepared for the upside and the downside, know what we want to do in those situations. That's why I say check out Patreon. Link is in the top of the video description. Weekly live group calls over there. Plus I got my altcoin portfolio coming out in a week and the monthly Q&A. If you get in, get the annual membership, as that'll give you 16% off and starts you from May until the next year in May. Don't forget the Bybit link in the top of the video description, $4,100 of sign-up bonuses. Live event. Hopefully I'll see you guys on Friday on the Gold Coast for the Phil Anderson event. Tickets still available. Link in the video description. See you at the next one. Peace out.